You know the face. It is a gelatinous, melting grimace, a pale pink mass of misery that became an internet sensation. In 2013, the Ugly Animal Preservation Society officially crowned the blobfish the world's ugliest animal, cementing its status as a global punchline. But this verdict is based on a fundamental lie. What if I told you this image is a crime scene? We look at this creature and see a grotesque biological failure, a mistake of nature that deserves our mockery. But we are not looking at a living animal. We are looking at the catastrophic aftermath of explosive decompression. To judge the blobfish by its appearance on the surface is like judging a human after being pushed out of a spaceship without a suit. It is time to exonerate the accused. Now, let's dive into the data and uncover the reality hidden in the deep. To understand the tragedy of Cycrolutes marsitus, we must first understand where it belongs. These creatures inhabit the bathyal zone, navigating the darkness off the coasts of Australia and New Zealand at depths between 600 and 1,200 meters. Down here, the pressure is crushing. At a kilometer down, the water exerts a force roughly 120 times greater than the atmosphere at sea level. The blobfish has evolved over millions of years not just to survive this pressure, but to embody it. Its very biology relies on the external weight of the ocean to hold its form together. Then comes the trawl net. When a research vessel or a deep-sea fishing trawler sweeps the bottom, the blobfish is often collateral damage, scooped up alongside crabs and lobsters. As the net is winched up toward the surface, the environment shifts with violent speed. The physics of this ascent are catastrophic for an organism designed for the abyss. As the pressure drops, gases expand, and fluids shift, the external force that once acted as a structural girdle vanishes in minutes. This is a process known as explosive decompression. For a human diver, ascending too quickly from just 30 meters can cause the bends. For the blobfish, ascending from 1,000 meters is a sentence of total cellular distortion. The anatomy begins to fail. Unlike surface fish, the blobfish does not have a rigid skeletal structure or complex muscle groups to maintain its shape against gravity. Its tissues are water-rich and gelatinous, designed to float neutrally in the high-pressure deep. Without the crushing weight of the water to bind it, the body expands and collapses simultaneously. The skin, once taut, slackens and tears. The delicate structures around the mouth and nose distort into the famous frown. The viral image that the world laughed at is essentially a corpse that has suffered the most extreme barotrauma imaginable. We stripped away its environment, subjected it to a rapid depressurization event, and then mocked the result. We created the monster. We must erase the memory. To see the Cycrolutes marsitus as it truly exists, we have to mentally reverse the trauma of the ascent, repressurize the environment, and return to the cold, silent darkness of the continental slope. Picture the water column pressing down again, the atmospheric weight returning to that crushing 100 atmospheres. As the pressure mounts, the gelatinous mass begins to tighten. The loose, flabby skin regains its structural tension, wrapping firmly around the underlying anatomy. The creature transforms. In its natural habitat, hovering just above the seafloor, the blobfish is not a blob at all. It reveals itself as a recognizable, even streamlined member of the sculpin family, a fish with purpose and definition. Video footage captured by deep-sea ROVs, rare as it is for this specific bottom dweller, shows a creature that is entirely unrecognizable from the viral meme. The drooling, frowning face tightens into a broad, slightly rounded head, typical of ambush predators that lie in wait on the sediment. The nose that everyone mocks? It is not a nose, nor is it a sagging flap of skin. In the deep, the water pressure compresses this feature into a supportive structural ridge above the mouth. It gives the fish a hydrodynamically efficient profile, allowing water to flow smoothly over its head as it faces the current, waiting for prey. It is an elegant, tapering shadow. The body does not puddle outward like melted wax. It tapers gracefully from that broad head down to a surprisingly delicate tail. We see small, feather-like pectoral fins that fan out, not uselessly, but with precise control, allowing the fish to pivot and adjust its position with minimal energy expenditure. Perhaps most surprising to those who only know the pink pile of sludge is the texture of its skin in the deep. It is not the smooth, raw flesh of a plucked chicken. In the abyss, the blobfish is covered in tiny, spike-like structures known as cirri or spinules. These minute sensory bristles give the fish a slightly prickly, textured appearance, serving as a sensory array that detects the subtle hydrodynamic wakes of passing crustaceans. When fully pressurized, the creature possesses a stoic, prehistoric dignity. It looks less like a cartoon character and more like a specialized, armored guardian of the slope. It looks like a fish. To compare the surface photo with the living animal is to compare a car that has been through a compactor with one driving on the highway. The damage done to our perception is absolute. We have taken a creature that has successfully navigated the ocean for eons and defined it solely by its moment of catastrophic failure. When we observe the cycrolutes in its element, we see a master of sit-and-wait predation. It does not struggle against the abyss, it rests within it. The wide mouth, which looks so comical when collapsed on a boat deck, is actually a highly effective vacuum trap. It is a wide-angle intake valve. Because the blobfish has neutral buoyancy, a concept we will dissect shortly, it can hover millimeters above the seabed without touching it, perfectly still, perfectly balanced. When a crab or sea pen drifts too close, that broad mouth snaps open. The sudden expansion creates a negative pressure vacuum, sucking the prey in before it even registers the danger. This is not the behavior of a clumsy biological error. This is the calculated strike of an apex efficiency expert. Yet, the world refuses to see this functional elegance. Why is the ugly myth so persistent? Part of it is our anthropomorphic bias. We look for human traits in animals, and the decompressed blobfish happens to resemble a grumpy, elderly human face. We see a frown, a bulbous nose, and sad eyes, and we project our own emotions onto a corpse. We mistake physics for personality. But the deeper truth is that we simply lack the context of the environment. We are terrestrial biases imposes on a hydrous reality. We expect biological structures to hold their shape against gravity because that is the rule of our world. We look at a lion, an eagle, or even a shallow water trout, and we see muscles fighting gravity, bones providing leverage, tension holding form. The blobfish exists in a world where gravity is irrelevant and pressure is the architect. By bringing it up to our world, we are stripping the architect away and blaming the building for falling down. If you were to take a deep-sea submersible down to 1,000 meters off the coast of New Zealand right now, and you were lucky enough to spot a Cycrolutes marsitis in the beam of the headlights, you would not recoil in disgust. You would see a pale, ghost-like form, hovering effortlessly in the black water, its large, dark eyes scanning the sediment, its movements slow and deliberate. You would see a survivor. You would see a creature that has solved the problem of living under the weight of the world. The ugliness is purely a fabrication of our interference, a distortion created by dragging a creature out of the heaven it was built for and forcing it into the hell of our atmosphere. The restoration is complete. In our minds, the pink jelly must be replaced by the streamlined sculpin. The frown must be replaced by the predator's grimace. We must stop looking at the blobfish as a joke and start looking at it as a marvel of bioengineering that we broke. But to truly respect this animal, we must move beyond just its appearance. We must look inside. The very features that make it melt on the surface are the secret to its domination of the deep. The lack of muscle, the lack of bone, the jelly-like flesh, these are not deficiencies. These are the blueprint of genius. Efficiency is the currency of the abyss. To understand the blobfish's anatomy, we must first look at the equipment it threw away. For most bony fish in the ocean's upper layers, staying afloat requires a swim bladder, a gas-filled internal balloon that regulates buoyancy. But at 1,000 meters deep, a swim bladder is a liability. The physics of maintaining a gas pocket against the crushing external pressure of the bathyal zone is astronomically expensive in terms of energy. To prevent the bladder from collapsing, the fish would have to constantly pump gas against a wall of pressure, a metabolic tax that a deep-sea creature can rarely afford to pay. Food falls slowly to these depths, drifting marine snow and the occasional carcass, meaning calories are a scarce, non-negotiable resource. The blobfish solved this engineering problem by discarding the gas tank entirely. It became the tank. This is the antidote to the nightmare. The realization that the blobfish's melting flesh is actually a high-performance material. The gelatinous mass that looks so repulsive on deck is composed of a specialized tissue with a density slightly lower than that of water. This is passive buoyancy perfected. By matching its body density to the surrounding medium, the blobfish achieves neutral buoyancy without expending a single calorie. It does not need to swim to stay off the bottom. It simply exists, hovering in perfect equilibrium with the ocean. This explains the lack of muscle tone that contributes to its flabby surface appearance. Muscle is dense, muscle sinks, and more importantly, muscle is metabolically expensive to maintain. In an environment where your next meal might not arrive for weeks, Maintaining a physique like a tuna or a shark is a death sentence. Atrophy is an adaptation. The blobfish has stripped away every ounce of non-essential tissue. It has minimal bone to weigh it down and minimal muscle to burn energy. It is the ultimate energy-saving machine. What we perceive as laziness or ugliness is actually a ruthless optimization for a low-energy environment. It is a creature designed to do absolutely nothing until the exact moment it matters. By surrendering its structural rigidity, it survives where stronger animals would starve or be crushed. The gelatinous body is not a failure of evolution. It is a specific, elegant answer to the equation of pressure versus scarcity. So when we look at that pile of pink sludge, we are not seeing a biological mess. We are seeing a biological submarine hull made of buoyant organic foam, perfectly calibrated for a depth we can scarcely imagine. It is ugly only because it is out of place. It is like judging a Formula One car for having poor off-road suspension. The design is perfect, but the context is wrong. We have dissected the myth, analyzed the physics, and reconstructed the creature. The world's ugliest animal is nothing more than a victim of physics and bad PR. The blobfish deserves an apology. Our reaction to Psychrolutes marcitus reveals a profound limitation in the human imagination. We struggle to find beauty in things that do not mirror our own existence. We fear the deep ocean because it is alien, and when we drag its inhabitants up to our level, we mock them for not playing by our rules. We turned a tragedy of physics into a meme. But true understanding, the kind that cures thalassophobia, comes from respecting the boundaries of these worlds. There is no such thing as a monster. There are only organisms perfectly adapted to environments we are not meant to survive. The blobfish is not a mistake. It is a silent sentinel of the continental slope, a master of buoyancy, and a survivor of the crushing dark. It reminds us that nature's design is not always about strength, speed, or rigid beauty. Sometimes survival is about being soft, yielding to the pressure, and becoming one with the water. It is time to retire the title of ugliest animal. Let us instead call it the ghost of the abyss, unseen, efficient, and perfectly at home where we can never be.